Welcome to Dresden. That's right, real Prague guides have gone international. When it comes to day trips from Prague, Dresden is a no-brainer. Located just 2 hours away from the Czech capital, it is an excellent option if you're looking for some relaxed, cultural experience. And in my opinion, a great alternative to Brno, even though that's up for a debate. What is culture? Is it wine and opera, or is it eating fried cheese at 2 a.m.? Big thoughts. If you love history as much as I do, Dresden will feel like Disneyland to you. Minus the screaming kids. It is actually our second time here. When we came here for the first time, we decided to see the city as tourists do normally. I mean, we are still tourists here, except we are not getting lost every 5 minutes. And I'm not giggling that much at the names of Dresden sites. Zempa opa. Simple dimple. Alright, I still giggle a little bit. By the way, enjoy me mispronouncing all German words in this video. The city of Dresden is split in half by the Elbe River, giving us two personalities, the Old Town, Altstadt, and New Town, Neustadt. The Old Town has the majority of the historical sites that I'm gonna speak about a little bit later. But here's the catch. This part of town was heavily bombed in February 1945 by the British and American Air Forces, while the New Town was bombed less, so it managed to preserve more of the original buildings. And because we are real Prague guides, here's an interesting fact. Several planes from that Dresden bombing actually flew into Prague accidentally on February 14, 1945, and also bombed Prague. Later, the pilots were saying that it was the malfunction in the radar that led them to fly into Prague instead of Dresden. We made a video about Valentine's Day bombing, we'll link it down below. Kurt Vonnegut, American writer who survived Dresden bombing, said that the city looked like the surface of the moon afterwards. Why am I bringing this up? It is something worth remembering while we are exploring today, since I'm not going to be just talking about the historical sites, but also how much of it is the mind-blowing reconstruction effort. Alright, let's start exploring. We have to start with the historical Zwinger Palace. If I look tense, that's because I'm holding in a certain joke. So, Zwinger Palace was established in the beginning of 18th century by King Augustus the Strong. Yes, that was his real name because he was a physically capable man. Take it as you will. Augustus the Strong actually built most of Dresden's historical sites. When it comes to Zwinger Palace, he was inspired by Versailles. So if you've been to Versailles, perhaps you're having flashbacks right now. And yes, much of it was unfortunately destroyed during the bombing of 1945, but as you can see, they've done a pretty amazing job at reconstructing it. Who would have known that it is all pretty much new? Not me. And obviously we have to mention the famous art gallery of Dresden. Art lovers, get ready to swoon, because this gallery is stuffed with hundreds of paintings of famous 15th to 18th century artists, sculptures as well, including the famous Raphael's Sistine Madonna, that one with sassy cherubs. We spent about 2 hours looking just at the Old Masters Gallery, but the ticket also covers other exhibitions. Actually, we were on a mission to find some stolen Bohemian paintings that were brought to Dresden from Prague during one of the sieges of the Saxons on Prague Castle. But no luck, maybe they are in the depository. Second World War also brought some drama to this place. A lot of artworks and sculptures were hidden in nearby castles, and some were later returned from Soviet Union, and some were not. Don't forget to stroll past the Procession of Princes, 102-meter-long mural painted on 23,000 porcelain tiles. Pretty cool. And then we have the Dresden Castle, which is kind of like the Hollywood diva, dramatic, always in the spotlight, and had many plastic surgeries. This castle started as a 13th century fortress that later was rebuilt in Renaissance and then Baroque style. Obviously also heavily damaged during the bombing of Dresden. Nowadays, Dresden Castle basically works as a giant museum. We visited it during our initial trip to Dresden, and I think it is my second favorite after the Dresden Gallery. We got a combined ticket for the main exhibition of the castle and the Green Vault that I'm gonna speak about in a second. In my estimation, you will need around 3 hours to see everything in the castle, but please do check their opening hours because a lot of the exhibitions were closed when we were there. Alright, let me talk about my traumatic experience at the Dresden Castle. The crown jewel of the Dresden Castle is the Green Vault. Not gonna lie, visiting the Green Vault was probably the most stressful part of our Dresden weekend getaway. This large treasure box was unsealed during 2019 robbery, so since then they have tightened their measures in regards to visitors, which I totally understand. I know I look very dangerous. So what's difficult about visiting the Green Vault? Well, first of all, you will need a separate ticket, which is time-bound. You need to arrive at least 10 minutes early, because German punctuality means on time is actually late. Then they let you in and give you an audio guide. And that's where it started to go south. You will need to go through multiple security doors. You start on the left side, and the way it works is that you go in pairs, you come close to one door, it opens, you walk in. Then it closes behind you, and then you wait a couple seconds up until another door in front of you opens, and then you finally enter the Green Vault. So if you're a person that would be hesitant to walk inside of a large door that looks like it can just squeeze a small human to death, then maybe take a look at how other people are doing it, because your hesitation is gonna seriously piss off the staff at the Green Vault. That's what happened to me. No shade on them, because they are probably still traumatized by that robbery a couple years ago. If you want another proof that Dresden is a city of the comeback stories, take a look at the Frauenkirche. Built in the 18th century as a bold Protestant symbol, this church was completely bombed in 1945. Locals piled up the rubble and let it sit up until 2005 fundraiser that managed to rebuild the church completely. Take a look at the facade. The dark stones that you see over there are the originals, and everything else was rebuilt in 2005 reconstruction. If Europe was an apartment, Dresden would have been its balcony. I did not just make it up. This is really how this place over here is called. Balcony of Europe. It's not like a balcony I have in my house, where I store an old bike, some canned vegetables and fruits, and maybe old clothes. Just kidding. I don't have a balcony. Nor do I have a bike, because I cannot ride a bike. Ha! Before you leave Old Town, keep an eye out for the famous Napoleon stone right next to Augustus Bridge. This is a little autograph that Napoleon said to have left here in 1813 during his military campaign. Just a little reminder that Dresden was a center stage for some important political events. Let's leave the regal Old Town, cross historic Augustus Bridge, and visit a more laid-back part of the city, the New Town. Neustadt is Dresden's artsy alter ego. Think edgy galleries, vibrant street art, cozy cafes, quirky boutiques, and nightlife that doesn't quit. Neustadt survived Second World War with fewer scars, so it feels like a perfect blend of old charm and new vibes. It was pretty easy to find, we just kept walking straight. As soon as I started seeing graffiti everywhere, I knew that we are at the right place. One of the must-see sites of the Neustadt is the Courtyard Art Passage, or Kunsthof Passage. Oh lord, I definitely butchered that one. It is a collection of 5 inner courtyards that look like they exploded with creativity. You might not believe me, but I managed to get lost there, but I didn't mind. Walking through the Neustadt streets, I've realized that there's one place on earth where all the hipsters went to live, and that's this part of Dresden. It did not feel touristy at all, except this one famous milk shop. Milchladen. I hope that's it. This was for sure the most beautiful milk shop that I've ever been to, but it was really crowded, so I actually didn't manage to try any milk. We just hastily bought some Polish souvenirs and off we went. But if you don't mind standing in the line, you can taste their buttermilk. They also sell fresh cheese, ice creams, any lactose products, pretty much. Yeah, definitely didn't know that so many people are into drinking raw milk. And since we are talking about food, as we visited Dresden twice, we had managed to try food in several restaurants. All of them were very central and very famous. During our first trip to Dresden, we went to this little place next to Frauenkirche and tried Zachischer Sauerbraten, which is basically a marinated beef roast served with red cabbage and dumplings and rich gravy. And then we had it again the second time we visited Dresden, but in a different restaurant, which I think is more touristy, but it was very good. I liked both restaurants actually. And I had a slightly different version of the same dish I'm not gonna dare to pronounce for the second time, except the dumpling looked like this. It was very fluffy and the gravy was made of raisins, so it was sweeter than the first time around. So for the coffee break, I suggest trying some typical Dresden desserts, which I cannot pronounce. Unfortunately, I call it Dresden cheesecake, but don't listen to me. It's not a cheesecake. Let's try it. Certainly looks like cheesecake, but this is really good. This is creamy like a cheesecake. My feet are aching so much, but we've done it, guys. That was our first adventure outside of Czech Republic. Gotta say, filming abroad is as awkward as filming at home. Let's quickly talk about how to get to Dresden from Prague. It's very easy. There's a direct train from Prague main train station, and then there is a direct bus. There's also a direct highway. Obviously, we've only scratched the surface of Dresden, even though we've spent here 2 full days, pretty much. There were plenty of sites that we still didn't manage to visit. Zempa Opa. Frauenkirche was closed, unfortunately. They had some concert. We also haven't been to Slaughterhouse 5. Yeah, we are fans of Kurt Vonnegut, so didn't make it there, but I've heard it's not so easy to visit, actually. Definitely not a cheap city, so maybe if you are looking for a budget place to travel for 1 day from Prague, go to Brno. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next video. Bye!